Why is everything considered luxury? You can't go out and get a regular thing for a regular price. Lots of times now, you're getting a regular thing for a luxury price. Technically speaking, 1 in 6 American households.
Goodwill has gotten ridiculous with their prices. $6 for a pocket calculator? It's not like everyone in the world already has one in their phone.
TikTok fam, happy Monday. I am just scrolling through and I saw this post on Instagram from Financially Fulfilled Pro.
The 400 richest Americans are now worth a record $6.6 trillion. The entire bottom half of America.
These are the signs that your house is quiet luxury, and it's not about the size. You have a fruit tree in your yard, but it's not a basic fruit like an apple. It's like a persimmon or kumquat. You have a long-ass driveway, and bonus points if you could not see your house from the...
Imagine working full-time, then realize groceries, your own apartment, healthcare, and even having a little saving feels like a luxury. For millions of Americans, the basic of normal life is becoming barely unaffordable. And that's where we are right now. If you are new on this channel, do me a favor. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, share, like, and don't forget to drop a big comment. What do you feel like? And hype me up, hype me up, hype me up.
Untouched, clean, natural habitat and safety and security. That is the future of luxury, right? And that's sad. So to see this news today that he's finally become the trillionaire that he's always wanted to be, and for me to know that him as a human being, at the end of the day, when he in that bed with somebody that he paid to be there, if they're there, you know what I'm saying? How desolate he must feel when he really realizes, I have all this money and I still don't have shit.
I've heard people say that it's cheaper to travel the world than it is to live in America. Now, we about to see, is that true? Because it's going to cost me what my rent was for my apartment. That's what it costs. It's going to cost me to get to Vietnam, basically. My flight was $650, luggage was $130, e-visa was $25, passport $200. So that's less than $1,500 for my essential items that I paid for. Things that I'm going to need. You're going to need a passport. You're going to need an e-visa once you get to Vietnam to get into Vietnam. And that's the cheapest purchase you're going to make is the e-visa. Make sure you go to the official Vietnam government website to get your e-visa. And it's going to take a couple of days to get approved. The e-visa is the cheapest purchase and the flight is the biggest purchase. $650 one way. Now all this other stuff, because I'm going to make a living from creating content. That's my goal. So that's why I bought my Meta glasses was $480. That's why I bought all these luxury, what you would consider luxury items. My iPhone, I paid about $2,000 for that. My DJI Mic Mini 3 was about $280. So in total, I spent about $4,000, still under $5,000. But for my essential items that you're going to need, you know, on my tripod was $30. All this for content, but all the essential things that you're going to need to get to Vietnam, you're going to need a room once you get there. So you have to include that also, which that should be, I would say, a couple of $100 to get you a room, right? So you want to include that as well. But all in all, still fairly cheaper than paying rent in America.
The new rich don't show off bags. They show off free time on a Tuesday at 11 in the morning. Because luxury has changed, and whoever hasn't understood it yet is still buying things that are seen when they should be building a life that is felt. Old luxury was having more cars, more square meters, more labels, visible signs that you had arrived, trophies so others would know what you had. The new luxury is different. It is invisible, it is silent, it is being somewhere on a Tuesday at 11 in the morning, having a coffee without anyone waiting for you. Without meetings you didn't choose. It's the tranquility of whoever decides how your freedom smells. That is, saying no without it costing you the month. It's catching a flight because you feel like it, not because you can afford it once a year. It's being present in the lives of your children, not because you have some free time, but because your time is yours. That peace of knowing that if tomorrow everything changes, you will be fine. That security that isn't bought with a bag, but that is worth more than any collection. And here is what nobody tells you. Most people will never have this kind of luxury, not because they cannot afford it, but because they are walking the wrong path to get to it. They spend their 30s, 40s, 50s chasing careers and businesses that were never going to make them free. By the time they realize the path was wrong, they have already lost decades. The path itself was the problem. If building this kind of free life is your goal, the worst thing you can do is waste years on the wrong path. That is why I built this assessment. That gives you a custom plan, so you know exactly which path leads to that kind of freedom based on your skills, your situation, and your schedule. Take it from the link in my bio or from the first comment on this post.
Things that are now luxuries that used to be an everyday item for me. Number 1, drinks. And I don't mean just alcohol drinks. I mean any type of drink. Soda, water, Gatorade. Like, I love a good Diet Pepsi, but I can no longer afford a Diet Pepsi when I go out to eat because it's $3 to $4. If you want to talk about alcohol, crazy. Like, I don't want to buy that one glass of wine and spend $12 to $15 if I'm not even going to get a buzz. So let's not even do it. Okay. Number 2, fast food. Guys, I love a junior bacon cheeseburger from Wendy's. They used to be $1.29 like 3 to 4 years ago. They are now $2.59. I used to feed my coworkers like once every 2 weeks with McDonald's breakfast. They loved the sausage burritos. They were $1. They're now almost $3. And what's crazy about fast food is that it's not even healthy, yet it's super expensive. Okay, anyway, number 3, candy. Have you guys recently seen how expensive candy is? Like, is it only going to be rich people who are giving out candy at Halloween this year? Because I can't afford it. Okay. Number 4, decor. Like, I would like my house to look really pretty with fancy decor, but I can't afford it unless I go on Facebook Marketplace or I go to a yard sale or I see someone just throw it out on the road and I grab it there. Okay. Number 5, cleaning supplies. Have you seen how expensive scrubbing bubbles are, or Windex, or Lysol lemon scent cleaner? Yeah, so like what I'm saying is that this is very stressful, and it'd be really nice if these fucking prices would go down. All right, bye.
I was talking to a homie, and he said 80,000 is a new 40,000. And because of inflation and these crazy gas prices, you might be right. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below.
Amazing news, everyone. We are the richest country in the history of the world. Yeah, so we've heard. Can we have healthcare? No, that would never work. Can we have affordable housing? Why would we do that when there's private equity? What about public transportation? Well, think of the auto industry. Come on. Can we have childcare and parental leave? No, we're gonna need you to get back to work. Can we take care of our planet? Stop. Don't let the guys from Big Oil hear, okay? You'll hurt their feelings. Can we raise the minimum wage? You already get $7 an hour. Don't be so greedy. Can we make college accessible? Well, then how would we even keep you in debt? Sorry, so what can we have? War. We can always afford war. It's kind of our thing.
From 1948 to 1973, for 25 years, the U.S. economy was so amazing that you could conceivably get a job. I mean, a regular job. I don't mean an amazing job. Just a job. And the pay would be so high and the benefits so amazing that you could not only afford to buy a house and feed your family, you might be able to send your kids to school and you might be able to retire really well. That was the only time, in fact, in human history where a person could work and make wealth. Because if you look at the middle class today in the United States, they don't make wealth. They barely get by. But for 25 years, people were prospering. If people aren't fretting about food, if they're not worried about shelter, if they're not in constant fear that the economic situation they're in will collapse, they have mind space to start to ask bigger and better questions. Wait a minute, what about civil liberties? What about civil rights? What about human rights? And the next thing you know, by 1954, 6 years into this explosive economy, we're in the middle of a revolution.
There's a new form of luxury that no one's talking about, and that form of luxury is called leisure time. So forever, we thought luxury was fancy cars, a picket fence, White House, You guys know what the American dream was. But with these new generations, Millennial and Gen Z, they're setting a new standard, and I'm proud that we are doing that. Because now, luxury looks like being able to quit your 9 to 5 on a whim and be in Thailand in the next week after you quit your 9 to 5 and just chilling. Maybe even if it's just for 3 months, just having the ability to do what you want to do, having financial freedom, having freedom in regards to your time, how you spend your time, being able to call off work and not care if you lose your job or not. Luxury is looked at in a different manner in a younger generation, and I'm very proud of us about that because it don't matter what car you're in, they're all gonna break down. It don't matter what type of clothes you got on, you still gonna probably grow out of them. But at the end of the day, it does matter how you use your time and if you are in control of your time. So now, time is the new luxury. Make sure you guys have a luxurious life with meaningful ways to use your time. Also do what you have to, of course, but at the end of the day, let's keep this new style of luxury up.
You're telling me we have a trillionaire now, but my girlfriend who makes $15 an hour makes too much money to get government health care?
Hey, so this is something that I noticed, so I just want to talk about it. I don't understand nowadays, why does something have to be expensive to be considered nice? Like, I didn't grow up rich, so I feel like a new car from that year is a flex. Why do people act like it gotta be a new Benz, a new BMW, a new Tesla, a new Lambo to be considered nice? Like, even when it come to clothes, I feel like I could go to Aldo or Forever 21 and get some cute stuff. Why do I gotta go to Gucci and Louis and spend $1,200 on a bag for it to be considered nice? Like, maybe I'm just weird, but I don't understand what is people's obsession with expensive things. Like, why is it considered better just because it's expensive? But yeah, I'm done. Have a good day. Bye.
You turn on the TV.
We have the greatest economy actually ever in history.
You change the channel.
771,000 Americans sleeping on the street tonight. Most of them don't even remember the last time they went to bed full. 150,000 of them are kids.
You turn it off, and you just sit there, because the math isn't adding up anymore. You work full-time, maybe 2 jobs. You haven't taken a real vacation in years. You drive a car that's about to die. You haven't been to the dentist in 3 years, and you're still broke at the end of every month. Your grandfather bought a house on 1 income, raised 4 kids, took the family to the beach every summer, retired with a pension. You can't even afford the rent on a 1-bedroom. So when the president says, we have the greatest economy in history, who exactly is he talking about? Because it isn't you. It isn't the kids in the cars. It isn't your friend who works full-time at the warehouse and still lives with his mom at 34. Somebody is winning. It just isn't us. And it didn't happen by accident. Let me show you a number that should make you angry. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. In 1965, the average American CO made 21 times more than the average worker. 21 times. That sounds like a lot. It isn't. Today, if the worker makes 50 grand a year, that same ratio would mean the CO takes home about $1 million. 60 years ago, that's how it worked. The CO had a nicer house, a nicer car. The worker had a house and a car. The system was imperfect, but it worked. People got by. In 2024, the average CEO at America's largest companies made 281 times more than the average worker. For the 100 biggest companies that pay the lowest wages, the Walmarts, the Amazons, the McDonald's, the ratio is 632 to 1. Let me put that in plain English. It would take the average American worker, starting in the year 1740, working every single year through the American Revolution, the Civil War, both World Wars, the Great Depression, the Cold War, and all the way to today, almost 300 years of full-time labor, to earn what a single CO makes in 1 year. Adjusted for inflation, CO pay has gone up 878% since 1978. Worker pay has gone up 4.5%. That's it. Half a century, 4.5%. In the same country, in the same companies, at the same time. Here's where it gets weird. There's a single rule the government quietly changed in 1982. Almost nobody talks about it. But it explains everything you just saw. You probably think CO pay going up like that is normal, that it's how capitalism works, that COs are just worth more now. Here's the part they don't teach you. For most of American history, when a company made money, it did 3 things with the profit. It paid the workers, it reinvested in the business, and it gave some back to shareholders. That was the deal. In 1982, the government changed a rule. They made it legal for companies to use their profits to buy back their own stock. Before 1982, Companies that bought back their own stock could be charged with market manipulation, so almost no one did it. After 1982, it became the most common thing a company does. When a company buys its own stock, the price goes up. When the price goes up, the CEO's stock options get more valuable. And guess what the CEO's pay is tied to? The stock price. So instead of paying workers more or investing in the future, companies use their profits to make their own stock more expensive, which makes the CEOs richer. Just 100 companies, the ones that pay you garbage wages, spent $644 billion buying back their own stock between 2019 and 2024.
These things were once considered luxury, but today, most Americans wouldn't think twice about them. Number one, having multiple bathrooms. Decades ago, one bathroom could serve an entire household. So having two or more could feel like a major sign of comfort and success. Today, multiple bathrooms are completely normal in many homes. Number two, microwave ovens. Early microwaves were expensive, bulky, and considered a futuristic kitchen appliance. They were nowhere near as common as they are today. Number three, color television. During the 1960s and 70s, owning a color TV was a major upgrade, and some families were among the first in their neighborhood to have one. Today, every modern screen can display color, so we barely notice it. Number four, long-distance phone calls. Calling someone in another city or country could be surprisingly expensive, so families often planned their calls carefully and kept them brief. Today, messaging and video calls can connect us almost instantly. And number five, air conditioning in cars. Car AC was once an extra cost feature, usually found on more expensive models. Summer drives often meant opening the windows, but today, air conditioning is standard in most cars. It's fascinating how yesterday's luxuries can become everyday necessities.
There's an epidemic of individuals trying to live a luxury lifestyle and they simply can't afford it. Why are we living in luxury apartments and you only make $40,000, $50,000 a year? It doesn't make sense. Like, think about the people who complain about the high cost of living in certain cities, right? Y'all are complaining about living in these high cost of living cities, yet right across the street, 2 blocks from you, is an apartment that you can afford. Let's talk about the fact that people are driving luxury Mercedes Benzes, like GLEs, and they make like $80K a year. That car is worth more than what you make in a quarter of your salary. Why are you driving that car? It makes no sense. People are willing to pay $1,000 car payments just to look like they have it all. Like, I think there's a time we need to end this epidemic of people wanting to be perceived as luxury. It is literally okay to just be a normal person.
What's up, guys? So this is what is called the average income neighborhood in America. So look at how the average income neighborhood houses is. These people are making from the range of, like, let's say $45,000 all the way to maybe $90,000 or maybe $100,000. These people are considered the middle class. So you see what the middle class houses look like in the United States. And yes, if you even enter another street now, on the same neighborhood, you can see the different kind of houses and different kind of incomes. That is how America is. So the next street will demarcate the middle class from the rich, depending on the neighborhood. So far as it's a gated neighborhood. So the houses prices are different. These houses now might be ranging from maybe $250,000 all the way to $400,000. So that is why America always support their middle class, because if they can't support their middle class and middle class can't buy this kind of houses, there's only the few rich. So if middle class can buy houses, the builders will have money to build more. They will create employment. The banks will have more money to be able to lend. And then you don't have to break your bank to be able to afford a house of your own, while you pay the mortgage and get an equity on your mortgage, which you can pull out and do a business and do whatever you want to do with it as time goes on. So what do you guys think? Do you think that the middle class is the backbone of the economy? Why does Nigeria don't have these opportunities for middle class? Like, is there middle class in Nigeria? And what is the salary range of a middle class earner in Nigeria? All right, peace.
Canada is basically the warning label that nobody else in the world is actually paying attention to right now. Canada has the least affordable housing in the G7, not only because our government decided to temporarily spike our debt to GDP ratios by mass importing people, even though we had absolutely no room for them or infrastructure, but because the government cooked the market. Thanks to them refusing to build and importing 1 million people a year without planning, housing is now considered a luxury item. We are drowning in debt. Canada's current economy is the exact example of what happens when globalists and ideology take over your nation, and they say things like spend less to invest more. However, you have nothing to show for it at all because they have hindered all of our other opportunities to actually make money. So when they say spend more, they mean give more subsidies so people stop leaving, and give more corporate bailouts, corporate welfare, so that they can convince and bribe people to operate in Canada without actually having to reverse any of their disastrous policies that make people allergic to investing in Canada in the first place. Free speech is basically on life support. We have more hate speech bills than anything else. There's absolutely no protections when it comes to diversity of thought, ideas, and actually expressing them online. They have bills in Parliament right now, which would actually grant the government powers for you to have your internet cut off if you are deemed a threat based on your speech and what you're doing on your computer. Again, always very loosely defined. It's for our safety, of course. Duh. Even though there's already laws in place to deal with that sort of stuff, they just don't act on them. In fact, we actually let criminals out of jail the same day that they're arrested half the time because it costs too much money to keep them incarcerated. Oh, and do you want to know what our country's main news source is? It is federally funded outlets who get promised even more money during election campaigns and get paid with taxpayer dollars throughout the year. In fact, they've used that as an excuse to protect Canadian identity while shutting out all other independent competitors and having a crazy unelected bureaucracy that actually gets to control and manipulate algorithms and what people see and are allowed to say online. You know what I think is really crazy though, is so many people still have this idea in their head that Canada is a strong, free, peaceful, stable nation. But while we are over here politely collapsing under all of our own failures, I just want you to take a moment to remember Canada and take it as a warning of this is what happens when you allow globalism to take over your country.
That's all you've got here, folks. Mile after mile of mall after mall. America the Beautiful, one big transcontinental commercial cesspool. Consumption. It's the new national pastime. Fuck baseball. It's consumption. The only true, lasting American value that's left. Buying things.
I don't think the American dream is dangerous because it gives people hope. I think it's dangerous because the easiest way to stop people from questioning the ladder is convincing everyone that they'll eventually climb to the top. So we're going to talk about the American dream today. So the term itself was popularized in 1931 by historian James Truslow Adams. He basically describes the American dream as this idea that everyone should have the opportunity for a better, a fuller, a richer life, regardless of where they were born or what class they came from. Notice something though, he was not talking about becoming a millionaire. He was talking about opportunity and this chance to build a better life. But over the next several decades, especially after World War II, America experienced an enormous economic boom. So mass production expanded, suburbanization, so suburbs were growing rapidly. Consumer goods became more accessible, and just owning things increasingly became associated with success. So home ownership, new cars, bigger TVs, newer appliances, luxury lifestyles was like a symbol of making it. And the American dream shifted from having enough to having more. And so today, when people hear the American dream, we don't think about dignity and opportunity. We think about getting rich. And this really reminds me of a theory in behavioral economics. It's called prospect theory. So basically, researchers found that humans don't really make decisions based on what's most likely. A lot of times we make decisions based on what we hope will happen or what we hope is possible. And the best way I can explain this is actually with another psychological phenomenon. It's called lottery psychology. So basically people are notoriously bad at evaluating tiny probabilities if the reward is enormous. Take lottery, for example. We know the odds of winning the lottery are astronomically small, but millions of people still buy tickets because our brains naturally overestimate the chance that we might be the exception and we win the lottery. So the possibility of winning the lottery becomes emotionally larger than the probability of you actually winning. I think the American dream can sometimes function in a similar way. Instead of asking, well, what are the odds that someone born in my circumstances will become extraordinarily wealthy? And we're encouraged to focus on the fact that it's possible. Think about it like a casino. Casinos don't stay in business because everyone wins. They stay in business because just enough people win to convince everyone else that they could win next. Every jackpot creates new players because the odds aren't improving, but watching someone else win makes the possibility feel personal. Sometimes I like to say that extraordinary wealth works in the same way, right? We're not asking ourselves, is this system fair? We're asking ourselves, what if I'm the one that makes it, right? Like, what if I become rich? And that kind of brings us to an interesting concept in sociology, because every society has stories that help explain why its hierarchy exists. So like monarchies, like kings and queens, they had this idea of divine right. So kings ruled because they thought they were chosen by God. And then like feudalism and feudal societies, they emphasized birthright. So your place in society was determined by the family you were born into. So if you were born into peasantry, you stayed a peasant. And then modern capitalist societies, we emphasize on upward mobility. It's this idea that no matter where you start, hard work and determination can move you into a higher economic class. And that's a powerful idea because it replaces this belief that we had before that your status is fixed with this belief that anyone can rise. But it also changes the conversation. Instead of asking whether or not this hierarchy of like working class versus billionaire class is fair, we're encouraged to focus on whether we can move within that system and become rich ourselves. So I guess my thesis here is that the American dream doesn't sell hope anymore. They sell acceptance. I think that they're teaching us that extreme wealth concentration should be something that we tolerate because maybe, just maybe one day you'll work hard enough and be at the top. Like, have you ever noticed when someone criticizes billionaires or talks about wealth inequality, somebody's like, well, work hard and you can become rich too. But that doesn't really answer the question of whether or not the system is fair. It changes the conversation. Instead of asking, should this economic hierarchy exist? Is this fair? We're encouraged to ask, how do I climb this ladder? Right? We stop questioning the ladder and we start fantasizing about reaching the top. And social media encourages it. Every day we're flooded with mansions, with luxury vacations, private jets, designer clothes, influencers claiming that they became millionaires before they turned 30. Success is not admired anymore. It's performed every day on our cell phones. Algorithms are selling you a lifestyle. We don't see the millions of people who worked just as hard as them and never made it. That's actually another concept, survivorship bias. Whenever all you see are the success stories, your brain starts believing that success is far more common than it actually is. Here's the thing I need you to understand about the American dream. People who believe that they'll become wealthy one day are less interested in questioning a system that produces that extraordinary wealth all the way at the top. Why would you want to change the rules of a game that you think you might win? Hope is powerful. But hope can also become a distraction if it keeps us from asking harder questions, right? Questions like, does the existence of opportunity automatically justify this level of inequality? Even if one person can escape poverty, does that tell us whether the system is fair for everyone else? Is the ladder fair? Like, does everyone get the same equal chance to climb it? Or have we become so focused on reaching the top that we stopped asking whether the ladder itself should maybe look different, right? I don't think the American dream is dangerous because it gives people hope. I think it's dangerous because the easiest way to stop people from questioning the ladder is convincing everyone that they'll eventually climb to the top.
How am I spending almost the exact same amount to live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as I was whenever I lived in Miami Beach, Florida? Will someone please explain that to me? I remember whenever I moved back to Pennsylvania, everybody was like, at least you're going to save so much money. At least your cost of living is going to go down. And to be clear, I did not move back to Pittsburgh to save money. It was on my pros list for sure, but I moved back to be closer to my family. And now that I've been here for a little bit, I'm like, dang, how on God's green earth is everybody here affording this? Because while I have viewed apartments here over the last 10 years, toying with the idea of moving back, whenever I actually did come back and viewed apartments in person, I was shocked to see that rents and home prices have doubled, and you know what hasn't doubled? Wages. So then I started to get a little bit passionate about this because now you're really gonna make me mad, okay? And turns out it's a direct correlation to our government officials and our representatives who are not supporting us, who are not supporting Pennsylvania families. And it is honestly so freaking sad because it should not be a luxury, and it isn't a luxury, and it shouldn't be a political issue for people to make livable wages to afford groceries, bills, gas, health insurance, all of these things. And let me tell you something, if I'm thinking about this as a single person, I cannot even begin to imagine what it is like to raise a family in this economy. I can't imagine. I don't know how everyone is not drowning, and the answer is because they are drowning, and it's so sad. I just know for a fact that I can't be the only person sitting here at the end of every month wondering how my expenses are almost exactly the same living in Pittsburgh as they were on Miami Beach, okay? So if you're living in Pennsylvania, I strongly encourage you to pay attention to how our representatives have actually been voting, because people like Brian Fitzpatrick, Brian McKenzie, Rob Bresnahan, Scott Perry, all of these men, of course, have all supported policies that are making life harder and more expensive for everyday Pennsylvania families. And we all deserve to be able to enjoy our lives and plan our futures without living paycheck to paycheck. So get in those polls, vote, and pay attention to what our officials are doing, because it's not as far away from home as you think. It's actually knocking at your front door.
Did you know that Black Americans created the old money aesthetic, but Western luxury brands like Ralph Lauren and Prada are the ones being credited for it? If you haven't noticed, this style flaunts money with muted colors and no big logos, and is almost exclusively a certain demographic of people who come from a lot of generational wealth. The wealthy elites first started this quiet luxury aesthetic in the late 18th century to get away from the dress of the aristocratic class, of powdered wigs and flamboyant clothing. But the dark truth that many textbooks won't teach you is that the way that many white families build generational wealth is by exploiting Black labor. During the Civil War, white elites had up to 60 times the wealth of a Black person, and even now in 2026, the gap is not as significant as before, but it's still there. I even mentioned this in another video, but enslaved people were forced to wear formal attire as a form of control by their owners so that they looked more marketable. It wasn't until the Harlem Renaissance where Black dandyism came to be, where it was used as a form of empowerment and reclaiming identity, but that's rarely ever mentioned in the narrative. The classic Scott Fitzgerald book, The Great Gatsby, even shows the privilege that old money folks have versus average people in new money. Viral shows like Succession and Gossip Girl really revitalized the old money aesthetic in pop culture and fashion, but we definitely need to see more people of color represented in the storytelling and marketing of this narrative, because the uncomfortable truth is that the old money aesthetic would not be here without the labor of Black Americans, and we need to rebrand it to see them finally enjoying leisure time and having wealth. You know I can go on and on, so as always, let me know what your thoughts are down below.
What do you mean am I alright? I'm shutting down!
Why should Americans care? I mean, you're basically the dollar store of airlines.
Over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. You need affordable airfare.
Spirit, we all know flying is a luxury.
The it is. Flying is public transportation. Whether you're in first class or economy, you are in a giant metal tube soaring through the air with 200 strangers. They're called air buses for a reason, you twits.
Well, Spirit, you've never offered luxury services, so I can see why you may think that way.
Weddings, birthdays, funerals. I am the connective tissue that allowed the average American to attend all of these events and then some. Furthermore, in my 33 years of flying, I never had a single crash. Not every airline can say that. Yes, it may have been a little bumpy, but you got to Miami and back in one piece, even if the group chat didn't.
You? Of all airlines?
I tell you to Google it, but Lord knows you can't find on that search engine anymore, so just trust me. Mind you, I was landing people safely before and after 9/11. You don't even remember what that was like. You could just walk up to the gates.
Have you considered the possibility you simply got lucky 3 decades in a row?
Oh, piss off! Safety only becomes an Achilles heel when the arrow is profits.
Well, it is so nice to see that your self-esteem has not taken the same hit your business has.
Speaking of business, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my staff. Those are good people. And it hurts me because you know if you lose a job in 2026, you may not find one until 2036 because this job market is horrific. And don't you dare do Frontier the way you did me. You know you need me. You can't lose me and Frontier. They are quite literally the last frontier.
Sure. So, Spirit, if someone wanted to buy a plane, how much would...
Kiss my yellow...
Why are Americans so unhealthy? Girl, they literally designed our towns to make walking and biking for everyday tasks impossible. So, at some point, it's not just an individual failure. You're trying to work against the system. I mean, think about it. You literally have to get in your car in most places and pay a fee just to access exercise equipment. That feels wrong. To me, at least.
This is a porch in England, and this is a porch in America. People in the UK rarely have a porch, and if you do, you have mega money. It seems as if everybody in the US has one of these, and it is basically another room. That's so cool. This is a national park in England, and this is a national park in the US. Have you seen how amazing the national parks are in America? Look at them. I'll admit, they have better national parks than us. This is how we measure house sizes in England, based off how many bedrooms the house has. This is how they measure house sizes in America, square feet, which makes exact sense. Here in England, they will say a house has 3 bedrooms, but the 3rd bedroom is the smallest bedroom you have ever seen in your life. This is junk food in England. This is junk food in America. America, they don't care if they're pumping their stuff with Red 40. I love the fact that they don't care. You've got to give them the round of applause when they deserve it.
Does anyone else from Michigan remember when the state was actually affordable? When you could afford basic necessities, working a 40-hour week? Now in MAGA's America, 40% of Michigan households cannot afford basic necessities. This state was supposed to be the cheaper option. Trump promised to rapidly drive down the cost of food immediately after taking office. Obviously that was a lie, but so many people voted MAGA because of this. And now these same people are saying that we need to work harder. Well, how am I supposed to outwork imported food tariffs, packaging cost tariffs, these retaliation tariffs? These have all had devastating effects on lower income families and working class Americans. MAGA Republicans promise affordable groceries. It doesn't happen, and his supporters don't care.
It's actually unbearable how broke everyone is. Hear me out. I went ahead and got this juice and it's $2.59. Less than 5 years ago, it'd probably been like $1. Not to mention, every single city's rent is extremely high. What I mean by that is places where you used to pay like $750 a month for rent for a 1-bedroom are easily going for $1,400 a month, which doesn't add up, especially given the fact that no one has been getting a raise or the pay has not gone up from any company since then. On top of that, no one can even afford houses. Where I live in Las Vegas, a house averages about $300,000 to $400,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have that much money just sitting in my pocket. That's not including utilities, bills, food, water. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. I was thinking, no one even has wills these days, right? People die. There's no wills. You know, back in the day when you'd see people in the movies and they would be holding up a will and the lawyer would be reading the family the will? That ain't happening no more because nobody has any money. Not to mention, on top of that, the government's trying to tax us on everything. Like gas, you're getting taxed. You want to breathe air, you're getting taxed. You want to drink some water? You're getting taxed. It's so crazy to think that our country's trillions of dollars in debt. And it's like, how? Because you're taking every single penny we got. Not to mention, not trying to get political, but there's a 25% tariff coming on other countries. So that's just going to make everything even more high. If I spend $78 at the grocery store, I only get like 4 things from my refrigerator.
We raise our children on an appetite of conspicuous consumption. We teach black children that to be somebody in this world, you got to have Balenciaga, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Nike, Mercedes, BMW. This is what we teach them. The black community is the most materialistic community in America, which is a total contradiction of our alleged religious and spiritual claims. If we're not valuing education, if we're not building our own schools, if we're not training our own children, if we're not giving them no economic or entrepreneur activity, but you tell them you got to have this to be somebody, but I'm not going to put you in a position to earn it legally. Do you know what you're doing? You're breeding an entire generation of criminals because you're telling me I gotta have this to be somebody, but you're not doing nothing to put me in a legal position to acquire it, which means the only way I get this when I don't have this is to kill and steal by doing something illegal. Yep. Absolutely. So we are literally through gangster rap, but not just the gangster rappers. Look at our black professionals in the way they flaunt what they own. You understand me? Yep. Our entrepreneurs in the way that they flaunt what they own. If I'm a poor black kid, whether I look at the rappers, I could look at the church pastor, I could look at the business owner. Everybody's telling me you gotta be materialistic to be successful. But nobody's showing me how to do any of this legally. I'm gonna have to rob, kill, and steal. We are literally breeding us by the way we promote materialism, but at the same time, we reject academic excellence. Wow, wow.
Nobody finds it dystopian that people's idea of luxury right now isn't even luxury.
What we've been seeing in real time over the last while is the PR team of the ruling class winding up this message of basic necessities are now luxuries and you better not dream too big. How dare you want to eat something other than cereal for dinner? And of course, this rhetoric is not unique to times of serious economic downturn, right? Like we see kind of, how we've talked in society about, food stamps, like, oh, how dare people buy, good quality meat or a birthday cake or, these things, luxuries, or the way we talk about, oh, poor people shouldn't have an iPhone. That's a luxury. So there's always a lot of kind of policing of, if you are poor, you should look like this. You should know your place. You should only do these things. Otherwise, you must be lying, right? Maybe you're trying to trick us. But in this particular instance, right, these kinds of PR things like the, Kellogg's, you should eat cereal for dinner, crap is basically trying to sugarcoat, trying to convince, kind of people that used to be able to afford things that, we're recalibrating the scale of what is considered a necessity and what is considered a luxury, because they know that a lot of us are no longer going to have access to basic necessities. And so in an attempt to keep us, kind of appeased, they're trying to essentially trick us into thinking that these things are not in fact necessary and that we're silly and frivolous if we complain about it.
This is how unserious of a time we are living in. Now that all of these Chinese manufacturers are getting on TikTok exposing all of these luxury brands and whatever, I guarantee you, mark my words, the new flex, the new trend is going to be flexing the fact that you have American-made products. It's going to be like, oh, you can't afford American-made? Brokey.
We are entering into an era where identity is the hottest commodity on the market, but it's also going to be the most dangerous one. Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm a cultural futurist, and I specialize in identity evolution. I track human behavior, energy, and shifts in culture and identity before they become mainstream. Brands have figured out that people are spiritually ungrounded, they're psychologically overwhelmed, and they are searching for something stable to belong to.
But now all of these traditional authorities have lost their credibility. We are in a low trust culture. So now people are forced to shop for an identity instead of inherit one. I call this the identity marketplace.
This is aesthetic, luxury, and lifestyle as identity. When someone is in a vulnerable state, this type of branding and marketing, not the creator, but what the brands will do with this information, is predatory. Premise of a ready-made self is very seductive, especially for someone who is feeling lost, which is exactly who they're going to capitalize on. What this creator is saying is correct. We are going to see more of this where brands are selling identity as a luxury because the systems that we've relied on, religion, politics, culture, family, school systems, all of these inherited identities that we've received, they're all collapsing. And when we're in this energy, people are going to start searching for a sense of self. It's already happening. What she said is also accurate about how the loudest brand is going to win, not because they're telling the truth, but because they are telling you who you are with the most confidence. Here's the problem. This isn't going to just create stronger brands and communities. It's also going to create cults, microcultures, and ego-driven echo chambers that are disguised as empowerment. People will absolutely follow aesthetic because they're not aligned with their own truth. We already see this now, but it's going to rise. Discernment becomes a survival skill in an era where belonging is available for purchase. This is why grounding in your own identity, not a branded one, is critical now more than ever. When you are rooted, no one can hijack your selfhood, but when you aren't, someone will gladly sell it to you.
You come to America and
you realize that all the things you've seen in a movie are actually true. Like, I was astounded. Like, I was like, oh, they really do have the grates on the sidewalk that, like, blow up steam. And the cabs are all yellow. And, like, people do get mad when you walk slowly on the sidewalk. Like, everything was so exciting. And it was just like in the movies.
Here's what I think is going to be considered real luxury in 2026 and beyond. Coming from someone who's been working in luxury branding my whole life, and by being a Swiss Italian living in London, I've been shaped by Italians' art and moda heritage, the Swiss precision and financial acumen, and London's cosmopolitan energy. I've seen a huge shift in the market and the social perception of what true luxury means. Things that were once considered rare and unique, think about the Birkin bag, for example, now they're overexposed on our feeds. It's not anymore something so unobtainable. We see it every day. So they don't become something special, something unique. It becomes a commodity that everybody has. This is why I think the new luxury will be things that you are only able to obtain through effort, time, and discipline. This will be both appearance and substance. For example, appearance could be an incredible gym body that is not obtained through taking Monjaro or Ozempic, not that type of skinniness. Think about a toned muscle that you can only obtain through discipline and hard work. Lush, healthy hair with no extensions that you only can obtain through health, nutrition, and taking care of yourself. It does require money, but it also requires effort. The ability of acquiring a skill set that other people don't have. Think about being able to speak in an articulate manner, or knowing multiple languages, or playing an instrument. All of these require time and effort. It's about expertise, but also about being well read about a subject and truly going in depth. And to do it all with aesthetic taste, because money can buy you many things, but it could never buy you discipline and true aesthetic taste.
For the first time in American history, millions of seniors are going back to work. They thought they were done. They thought they had earned their rest. But under President Donald Trump, everything costs more. And now even retirement has a price tag. In just 2 years, the basics have become luxuries. Groceries are up 25%, electricity up 40%, rent up 35%, and prescription drugs up 51%. Their pensions are shrinking, their savings drained, their fixed incomes worth half of what they used to be. So they're back on their feet, behind grocery counters, driving city buses, mopping empty offices after midnight. These are the people who built America, who fought its wars, raised its families, and paid its taxes. And now they're fighting just to survive in the country they once built. They were told that hard work would earn them peace, that America would protect them when the work was done. But the promise has broken. Today, millions of seniors are working into their 70s, not for comfort, but for survival, because the cost of living keeps climbing while the value of a lifetime keeps falling. So here's the question. If the people who built this nation can't afford to rest, if retirement itself has become another job, then what happened to the America that was supposed to take care of its own?
$5.29. That's how much this grocery store baguette cost me. Not artisan, not Parisian, just bread. I love how every time I go on here and talk about how expensive groceries are, people come at me and say, you're shopping at the wrong place, or go to Costco, or just buy cheaper bread. This is what's available where I live. This is the closest thing to fresh bread that I can get. A real bakery is the same price or worse. There was a recent report that came out about Florida saying that you had to make $94,000 a year just to feel comfortable. I mean, I totally believe that, seeing as a loaf of bread is $5. Yeah, most of my friends don't even come close to $94,000. Don't get me wrong. I am thankful for a lot of things living in the United States. However, when people say we make more, do we? Because it's getting harder and harder every day just to afford the basic stuff. Grocery shopping used to be fun for me. Now I dread it. Going to the store used to be kind of like my own little personal therapy. Now, every time I go, I'm just more and more shocked when my basket has 3 items in it and it costs like $20. Here's my opinion. Bread should not be a luxury item. But here we are. So I guess I need to invest in a bread machine or just face the facts that bread is over $5 a loaf now. I know this cannot just be me. It is a struggle right now. I know on paper we have a booming economy, but not for the people buying the bread. only for the people selling the bread. Maybe it's because I'm an optimist, but I've always had this feeling like, oh, it's going to get better. This is just temporary. Groceries are just expensive now. Like the prices will come back down or wages will go up. But like I've been having this feeling for maybe like 4 or 5 years now, and it's not getting better. So like, is this just what life is? Is this just what growing up is? Like just kind of like this underlying struggle? I don't know. Does anyone else feel this way?
To be very real with you, as a real estate agent who's been doing this for 8 years now, I served in the military. I went overseas. I fought in Afghanistan. I did the thing for this country. I'm sick. I'm sick of what this country is doing right now. Continuing to gaslight this next generation into thinking the opportunity is still there. Work harder. Keep going. Don't stop. If you stop, you suck. Make money. If you don't make enough, you don't be able to pay shit. Work harder, make more. You made more, now make more. You're in America. It's the land of opportunity. You can do anything you want in this country. Just work harder, grind, go, make more, make more, make more. You gotta pay your bills. How do you support your family? Gotta raise a kid. America's dream, buy a house. Look at all this debt. Oh, you're not making it? Huh, must be because you're just not working hard enough. What does the next decade look like with the generation of young men coming up trying to work their ass off that aren't seeing anything? The amount of people that are working hard, doing everything they can to put food on the table, put a roof over their head, provide for them and their family, even just them and their wife and their husband, whoever, is now in a world where if they work harder, they're not making enough money. And when they're not making enough money, they're being told it's because they're not working hard enough. They were able to do it. Grandma was able to do it. Uncle was able to do it. Sister-in-law was able to do it. Why can't you do it? Huh? You must not be working hard enough. And now we're in a world where you have to make $128,000 to live comfortably in a home in America, according to the Wall Street Journal, where you have to make over $100,000 just to get to the point, honestly, if you're in a relationship with a home, to cover your bills. Not thriving, not saving, not investing, not growing, not gaining assets, not facilitating a lifestyle that you're going to be proud of in the land of opportunity with your hard-workedness. No, you'd be getting by. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, the land of opportunity is not opportune right now. Let me tell you, there are so many millions of young, hardworking men and women in our country right now that are not reaping the benefits that the past generations reaped. Are not doing it wrong. You are working hard, 40, 50, 60 hours, you and your significant other, maybe hundreds of hours of work a week within your household, and you still feel like you can hardly afford to raise your child? That's not fair. It's simply not fair. I understand we're in a free market. I understand capitalism means work hard, get money, have all this opportunity to do something with your life because you have this freedom. This freedom. We always have freedom. Oh, free market, capitalism, yay, money. 74.6% of the money is in the top 10%'s hands. 32% of it's in the top 1%'s hands. I just don't see what the next decade looks like if this continues. The political system of blue and red keep us fighting. Oh my gosh, that person's right. No, that person's right. No, you're a racist. No, you're a liberalist. No, every commercial I'm seeing alcohol, sexual immorality, and gambling. Alcohol, sexual immorality, and gambling. And then I get to a game, and then in the game, they're like, hey, you should gamble more of your money. It just seems like more and more the opportunity to escape the working class slavery that we are put into by the billionaires and trillionaires of our world is becoming inescapable. If you were to tell me, do you think home prices will crash or do you think home prices will double? I think home prices double much more easy than home prices crashing. And you say, why do you talk about home prices? Well, because that is the gateway drug to wealth in America. If you don't own assets, you will never get your ass in a class that you want to be a part of. You will never escape being broke. Guess what the net worth difference between homeowners and non-homeowners is in America? $396,000 average median net worth of somebody who owns a home. $10,000 average median net worth of someone who doesn't own a home. If you don't have it, you won't grow. And if you can't get into your first one, you'll never start the snowball. And if you got to make 128 grand to get into your first one with you and your friend, or you and your wife, you and your 2 kids, whoever the situation is, then I don't think that we're in a land of opportunity when the average median wage of an individual worker is about $47,000, $75,000 for a household. I'm worried.